right, guys. Apparently Fallout is dead, and here's why. I guess that's what we're going to talk about today. But first, fan art, as per usual. This one is from Lady Merlin, and they said, spent a bit of time on Hero Forge to plan to print out the STL for this and paint it up. And I have to take the screenshot directly from Discord on mobile because apparently I'm not able to grab another image from Discord because it's basically broken. That's cool. I'm happy about that. I like it when Discord's broken. I don't need my technology to work. That's silly shit. But anyway, thank you very much for the fan art submission, Lady Merlin. I appreciate it. And with that said, yeah, let's go ahead and get into this. It's called Amazon's Fallout is a glorified humiliation ritual, with the thumbnail Fallout is dead again. How can it be dead again? How does that happen? Anyway, let's take a look here.
The much anticipated Fallout TV adaptation is finally released. And who am I kidding? We all knew this would be bad. Is anyone surprised? I mean, a single person. I made a video just reacting to the first trailer and knew this would be an absolute butchering. And why is that? Well, not...
So it's actually not. It actually gets a lot of shit, not only right, but really, really well about the Fallout universe. I'm not gonna lie. I'm of the opinion that the Fallout show was a goddamn masterpiece. But anyway, let's go ahead and continue. Maybe I'm just from the era where Uwe Boll is the guy who made my video game stuff, and so I'm just so used to video game adaptations being hot garbage that I'm happy when something like the Fallout series comes out and does decent and also does justice to shit.
Just because it's Amazon, and we all know from Rings of Power and various other shows they made that they really don't care about the source material of any series, franchise, no matter how beloved. I mean, if they didn't care about Lord of the Rings, they sure as hell were not going to care about Fallout. But not just that, we know Bethesda...
You know what's funny? We know that they cared about Fallout during this because they made an active effort to keep as hard, like, as much as they could to series lore and convention, with only a few strange differences. I said that name is Poison. Oh, the synthetic man? Said Fallout was really good, actually. Yeah, so I've played a bit of Fallout 1. I've played Fallout 3. I've played a little bit of New Vegas. I haven't touched 4, and I haven't touched 76. So bear in mind, most of my enjoyment of Fallout has not come directly from my playing of it. It has come from watching people who break down the lore of the series and enjoying it through them, basically vicariously.
Doesn't care about Fallout, at least the lore, the canon, anything that they weren't directly involved with. And honestly, in some cases, even some of their older games, they don't care about continuity in the least bit. Now, for the sake of maintaining relevancy, I'm only going to review the first episode in this video, and I'll review the whole season next week. Every single episode dropped at the same time, so on the one hand, that's totally a good thing because this will be gone and forgotten in no time flat, because I don't think anyone who's a real fan of Fallout is going to consider this canon, especially because of all the retcons, inconsistencies. It's obvious the showrunner...
So let's go ahead and start out with the retcons. Did you know that most major series that have gone on long enough have ended up having some kind of retcon? Because it turns out internal continuity, while important, isn't as important as telling a good story. Internal retcons happen all the time in long-running media. Pokemon has internal retcons. Dragon Ball has internal retcons. The goddamn Bible has fucking retcons in it. I'm sorry, but retcons are just a thing that happens when you have a long-running story that either has multiple authors or is just gone on so long that you need, unironically, a series Bible to keep things consistent. And even then, certain things are going to be maneuvered around. Oh, and for those of you who are going to be like, what retcons are there in the Bible? There are 4 of them. They are called Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And whichever one is accurate, you the fuck tell me. But, point is, retcons are a normal thing in long-running media. For people who are attached to older lore, irrespective of the quality of that lore, retcons are a pain in the ass. I'm not gonna lie. And I, too, have done the thing where I hold up my hand and do the, well, actually, in terms of story consistency not being right. And story consistency being good is a good thing. But I didn't see anything that directly contradicted anything else in the Fallout series, really, in here. New California Republic was at a further state in its timeline, and the city that it was founded in Fallout 1 was destroyed in this particular timeline. We see the Brotherhood of Steel, at least this chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel, that's a lot more xenophobic than some of the other chapters, but that's also consistent with how the Brotherhood of Steel acts. Like, I don't know which part of this is supposed to be a violation of Fallout lore.
Didn't give a single shit about the Fallout universe, yet Todd Howard said this is canon. I fucking hate Todd Howard at this point. I don't care if he's not directly involved with any of Bethesda's projects and he's basically just a glorified salesman, the face of the company. Doesn't matter. He's still taking the fucking blame. So before I start spoiling everything...
So you're making Todd Howard take the blame despite him having zero involvement and not having anything to do with... This sounds like a feels argument. Are we arguing from feels?
In the intro, we might as well just get into the breakdown. So episode 1 begins in 2077, right before the bombs drop. We see Walton Goggins playing one of the main characters, the Ghoul. Yes, they literally call him the Ghoul when there are thousands of ghouls at minimum in the Fallout universe.
Okay, so... The reason they call him the Ghoul is he is effectively an alpha among ghouls. When it comes to all the ghouls in the Fallout universe, many of them are important, many of them are strong, many of them are long-lived, but he is known far and wide because over the course of his lifetime, he has gone across the entire American wasteland on some variety or other bounty hunting and doing things to survive. He's made a name for himself. And given that his original name for himself was a well-known TV star, defaulting instead to not having an official name for himself makes sense as a character moment because in his story arc, spoilers for the Fallout TV show, in that character's story arc, he gets used by the main villains of the Fallout universe, we'll go ahead and say. You figure that out throughout the show. But he gets used by them as an advertising beacon. Even though they are the ones that ultimately hastened the destruction of the entire world, he got used as an advertising beacon for them. It makes sense that he would strip himself of his own name at that point.
He is the Ghoul, but as of right now, he is Cooper Howard, a Marine veteran who is famous for something. I don't think they explain it in this scene, but they imply he played some kind of cowboy character. I don't know if it's for commercials or military propaganda. And now he just does birthday.
Yes, it was commercials, it was military propaganda, it was TV shows, it was movies, it was everything.
Parties for alimony payments. And I find this even more funny because his kid is mixed race. So his black wife divorced him, and now he plays fucking birthday parties.
Why does it matter that his kid is mixed race? Wait, why are we calling attention to the kid being mixed race? Why the fuck does that matter?
How blackpilling is that? And at the risk of getting a shit...
How... You had a divorce, so you paid alimony payments to your wife. I'm not the biggest fan of the alimony system, especially since in his situation, his wife was actually a little better off than he was. But, why does her being black matter there? Why are we focusing on that one?
A ton of dislikes from normies, just like my review of the first episode of The Last of Us. I find this even more funny because if you know anything about marriage statistics, you would know that white male, black female actually has the lowest divorce rates.
Why are we focusing on that? Why does that one matter? What? Why are we talking about white-black divorce rates? What the fuck point are you trying to make? Like, the thing with people like this is you generally need to ask them, hey, whether or not you're correct, I want to ask you what you mean. Are you trying to say, through your argument, that white and black people are non-compatible or less compatible? Which, that's basically bullshit. But let's pretend for a minute that we're having this argument. Why are you bringing this up, Mr. Scrotum? Also, Rainbow Phantom Baby, thank you for the follow. Dark Excalibur says, if I had to guess, he's probably trying to make fun or accuse black people of abandoning their children. I think he's trying to make... Because he said blackpilling, so I'm going to assume that he's trying to talk about, like, the state of the world and men. Because usually people who do the whole take the black pill thing are people who are appealing to the incel crowd, the people who believe that they're not going to see relationships or relationships aren't worth it or what have you. Those people tend to consider themselves black pill because they've seen the horrors of the world and they've accepted it and they stew in their own muck instead of bettering themselves or the world around them.
So in a way, you could almost say this is anti-propaganda, but I still think it's promoting race mixing, as basically every...
Remember how we just did that video talking about how YouTube's hate speech violation stuff, how they don't actually police the content on this platform at all in the way they claim to do? When somebody's actively saying, the Amazon show is promoting race mixing, you basically understand the kind of person you're dealing with.
Show on television does. You know, for as woke as video games are these days, TV and movies blow the gaming industry out of the water. Basically, every streaming show I've tried to watch with my mother has had some form of propaganda in it, and usually multiple types, whether it's race-related, gender-related, LGBT-related. It's usually all of the...
Is it propaganda, or is it just those characters existing? Is it... I don't know how much longer of this video I'm going to be able to take.
Above. But anyway, getting back to Fallout, the rich guy who's hosting the birthday party calls Walton Goggins a communist because he won't stick his thumb up in reference to the supposed safe distance from a nuclear bomb, implying that Walton Goggins opposes the war with China. Nothing really comes of this whole...
No, it's not that he opposes the war specifically. He was a veteran of that war. It's that he realizes throughout the show that he is being used as a propaganda piece, and the thumbs up that he gave was the piece of propaganda specifically. He is actively uncomfortable making the motion that he was paid to make as propaganda for the people basically responsible for nuking the entire world. That's what he has issue with. And he's considered a communist because there is a long-running history of a Hollywood blacklist against communists. We did it here in America during the Red Scare, and a lot of the Fallout universe is meant to project that 1920s, 30s, and 50s era of Americana, where things like the Red Scare were very, very prominent aspects of daily life. That's why I'm so... Media literacy and the right wing of the internet is fucking dead. I swear to Jesus.
Scene is obviously supposed to give you an idea what the retro future culture of 2077 looks like, but if a modern Marxist rewrote history and added diversity everywhere. Now, it's not like...
If a modern Marxist rewrote history and do you not think that in 2077, the black people and white people would be around each... What the fuck are you... Huh? I'm so confused. I'm so confused. Do we not think that people who are different races can get along, especially in 2077?
In the original Fallout games, all the characters were white, but there's something uncanny about this whole thing. We'll put it...
Is it because the original Fallout games were made in the 90s, and we had a more normalized white people being in everything back then, and that was just kind of how the industry was? Is that possibly why?
That I'm not gonna make a huge deal over it. So anyway,
so then why'd you bring it up? Why'd you bring up the race mixing? Why'd you pull it? You're not gonna make a huge deal over it, but you're just gonna subtly knock that down there.
Shortly after the first nuke drops on LA, the rich guy punches his black friend, not letting him in their Fallout shelter, and Walton Goggins rides off on a horse with his daughter on the back, as if you could fucking outrun a nuke. They literally just told us in the previous scene the safe distance is the size of a thumb. I think that explosion might be a little bit bigger than that.
Yeah, it's called Hollywood. I'm sorry, but it's... My guy, you know this is fiction, right? This is the same series with super mutants. This is the same series with a guy whose dick and pelvis is plugged into a computer, and he's able to make an entire Mariposa base bend to his will over time because he's got his fucking grody juices all inside a bunch of retro computer boxes. And then he calls himself the Master. You know that's the series we're talking about, right? That one?
I know they did this to have a really dramatic scene, but it just comes across incredibly idiotic.
Again, you know that Fallout is not a scientifically accurate show or series, right? It wears the veneer of Americana, the veneer of that science. It wears it like a dress, but it's not the actual substance of the series.
Especially since 3 more nukes drop, one which is within a mile of the house. Whatever. So anyway, moving on, we fast forward to the present, and I want to point out, this takes place after all of the games,
thank you for the
and more
follow.
importantly, 15 years after Fallout New Vegas. You're going to want to remember that, considering this takes place on the West Coast. So now we meet our true protagonist, Lucy, a resident of Vault 33, which I guess was another control vault. Either that or it's some kind of multi-vault experiment, as they fail to adequately explain in the show. Vault 31, 32...
As they fail to explain in the show. I've seen the show, my guy. They explain exactly what that vault is. The tri-vault system of that series is very, very well explained and established when you finish the fucking show. Does he expect it to be explained in the first episode? Or did he watch the entirety of the show and then he's still claiming that it's not actually explained? How much you want to bet this guy watched the show while he basically had it in the background while he was playing some other video game and then only barely paid attention to it? So that whenever the show actually dropped important details like that, if the show didn't do that whole like dramatic pause, he didn't know that he needed to be paying the fuck attention and rubberneck around. I'm pretty sure that's what's going on here.
And 33 are all directly connected to each other, and so Lucy is applying for an arranged...
Yes, so the Fallout shelters that are notably in the entire Fallout series never connected to other vaults, generally speaking. He can't tell if the 3 vaults that are glued together is an experiment. He can't figure that out. He can't tell. What? He can't tell that the vault that obviously has something insanely different than the other vault systems is an experiment like all of the other vaults except for the handful of controls? Okay.
marriage with one of the other vaults. They show off all of her various skills. And of course, she just so happens to be good at basically everything. Definitely not a Mary Sue.
That's what they do. That's because all they do is work and do that shit. They train with fucking weapons because it passes time. That's what we do on the fucking countryside. That's why I've got guns. It's for shooting at fucking trees and seeing the explosions. Has he ever played Shelter? Like, oh yeah, her being good at agriculture, is it because she's in an agricultural society? Her being good at guns, is that because that's one of their pastimes? Her being good at engineering, would that also be because that's one of the fucking things they have to do? This is a world where people don't really have video games and don't have a lot of books to read and literally just have a handful of things to entertain themselves. They're going to learn more skills within their vault than the average person. Also, remember that he basically is calling her a Mary Sue, despite all the terrible shit that happens to her throughout the series that she barely makes it out of. Like, oh, I don't know. That whole exchange with the Ghoul where they rip each other's fingers off, that has one of the... I wanted to scream the Full Metal Alchemist equivalent exchange thing when that happened, but... let's just ignore all of the bad shit that happens to her that she barely makes it out of and only lucks out of and needs other characters to push her through, and how naive she is, how she doesn't know everything. Let's ignore literally every basic thing about this character to call them the Mary Sue.
Guys. And of course she gets approved. We find out her father is the overseer, her younger brother is this tiny, huge-nosed, cowardly, incompetent beta male, and also that Lucy fooled around with her
Why are we doing the whole... fucking... I'm almost done with this shit.
Cousin.
Messing around with your cousin, it's all well and good for kids, but it's not a sustainable long-term sexual practice, you know?
Who, despite being a tall, kind of more Chad-looking dude, is also a complete coward, worthless pussy. Get used to hearing that. And so the members of Vault 30...
Why do you have to... Are you doing that thing where you get to say, oh, look, all the male characters are pussies and the female characters are the ones in large and in charge, and that makes it woke?
3 meet up with the members of Vault 32, and we find out her soon-to-be husband is actually a white guy and not ugly. Shocking. But don't worry, they ruined that pretty short.
Why does it matter that he's fucking white? What
At the wedding,
this
Lucy
video?
asks her new husband, Monty, what his sperm count is. You know, I think I'm actually starting to like this girl. And even more based...
What? And even more no, I can't. This isn't a real person. This is a walking meme board that came out of 4chan and doesn't know how to get fucking laid. I can't anymore. This is literally just nothing but vitriol spilling out for no reason other than to say, I don't like when women are protagonists, and I don't like when black people marry the white people. That's all this fucking is. That's all this video is. There is no goddamn substance to this thing. I'm not watching the rest of this shit. I am not. Dude really said, I watched it with my mommy and we didn't like the race mixing. Yeah, your mom raised a hateful bigot who's a useless scrote to society. I'm sorry, I will say it with my full chest. You would have been better swallowed. That's all I can do. I cannot. Insert end of video tagline here. Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability a Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here, and they would be Red Joker, Britzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Mabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Nixie-chan, the Oberon team, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you, I'm not saying that part, and Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.